Hey,
Welcome to Toasted Fox.
I'm the toaster.
And I'm the fox.
We've been watching some videos recently talking about the main reasons to live in Germany. Two of the things that always come up are healthcare and cost of living. Now, healthcare is obvious why some Americans might want to come to Europe. Cost of living, being cheap or expensive, would definitely be a question.
It's not what we always agree with. What the people say that, for example, 700 for rent is cheap. We don't think so. We don't come from rich families, or we come from normal families where we didn't have so much money. We have to earn the money every time. So we have a little bit different opinion on these situations. So that's what we want to talk about, also from the normal perspective.
Yeah. When somebody is saying, like, oh, the cost of rent in Germany is really cheap. I live in Berlin and it's only €1,000 a month for my little 2-room apartment. And these people are definitely coming from very expensive areas like large cities like New York or DC or LA, because that's not cheap at all. It's very expensive. And what a lot of people coming to Germany don't understand is that the cost of living here used to be much, much cheaper before they switched to the euro from the Deutschmark. When they first switched from the Deutschmark to the euro, they bought everybody's marks at a rate of 2 to 1. So 2 Deutschmarks was €1. And the prices of everything were also supposed to reflect that. But since that happened, things that would cost €1 now cost €2.50. So the inflation has been a huge problem, and how much people make has not gone up by much. It's not been in step with inflation. So the average German makes €3,000 gross a month. That's the average. With our tax rates and our social insurances and such, that brings your net down to about 1,800 or so.
When you have to pay 1,000 rent from this money and also groceries and stuff like that, then you are really low on money at the end of the month. Like, it's not a good living.
And now, that's not to say that we're suffering here. We're definitely not. It's just that people like us who don't make a whole lot of money, we just have to live within our means. And so that means not getting €1,000 a month apartment in the middle of the city. You know, most people in our situation would live just outside the city and commute in, which anybody who works in a large city in the States would totally understand. So I think it's the same there too.
Yeah.
It's relative. It's relative to what you're used to. If you live in, like, I think we saw one video, the girl said that she had an apartment in DC and she was paying, what was it, $30 per square meter. That's insane. I can't even imagine that. I mean, here, like, our apartment now is what, €5 per square meter?
I think maybe 6 or something.
Yeah. So.
But we also saw
that's on the more expensive end of the spectrum too.
We also saw like apartments where it was €3 or €4 per square meter.
Yeah, which we're gonna move to soon, actually.
Yeah.
As certain parts of our town that weren't doing so good 10 years ago are now beautiful and thriving and completely rebuilt, but the rent prices are still low. So we're getting in while the getting's good, huh? So the next thing we wanted to talk about is the big topic. What everybody talks about, especially people who are worried about healthcare in the States. I'm from the US. I've been living in Germany for 15 years. When I first got onto the German system and I had to start paying for state healthcare, which we call Krankenkasse, I was shocked at how expensive it was. Shocked. Because when I left the States, before I joined the Army, I was working for a factory in Michigan that was a supplier for Chrysler. And so, you know, we had benefits. And one of the benefits is that your employer covers half of your insurance. right? So I had Blue Cross Blue Shield. I was a single young man. I was paying, I think it was like $30 a week for my insurance, so $120 a month. And of course my employer paid the other half, so another 120. That's $240 a month for insurance with basically the same outcomes as the insurance here. But here, taxes is one thing, then health insurance is another 15.6%. Then you also have your social security or Rentenversicherung, your retirement. Then you have Pflegeversicherung, which is in case something happens to you, to pay for your care, like if you have to go to a home or something, or if they have to hire somebody to come to your home on a long-term basis. Arbeitslosenversicherung, which is, unemployment insurance, so that you can get your benefits from unemployment if you lose your job. These are all the things that are 100% mandatory. You have to have health insurance. You have to pay these other insurances. The only exception is if you are out of work or a student or both. In the end, you end up with about 60% of your gross as net pay, which goes back to the cost of living thing. But healthcare is very, very expensive here. The other question though is it worth it? I mean, we have a child together, and so for us, it's definitely worth it because we never have to worry about anything. If he's sick, we run straight to the doctor. If he falls and we think he might have broken something, straight to the emergency room. No questions. It's not going to cost us anything, and that is worth it. Right?
Krankenwagen.
Oh yeah, and don't get me started. Don't get me started on the ambulance. Our son had an accident one time, and we had to call the ambulance.
But we paid $15 after.
Yeah.
So it's not so $15 for ambulance
We paid €15 for an ambulance. Now here's the kicker. If an ambulance takes you to the emergency room and they release you but you're not quite able, the ambulance will take you back home. They do it for older people a lot, but anybody can do it. There you have to actually pay, but I think it's like €70 only.
I don't know.
Like, it's really cheap. An ambulance ride in Germany is super cheap because the insurance here really pays for just everything necessary and even some things that are not necessary.
Yeah.
So dental is in there too. Once every 6 months I get a cleaning. It's covered, or at least like 75% of it's covered. I still have to pay a little bit. The last few years I had my teeth completely worked over and cleaned and teeth pulled and everything, and I paid almost nothing.
Yeah.
So it's definitely worth it, especially if you have kids, or especially if you have health problems. Now, people who make a lot more money, a lot of times they'll decide to go with private insurance simply because they don't want to have to pay such a huge amount of money for everybody else. They don't want to pay it, they don't have to pay it, but they do have to have insurance, and that's where we have private insurance. It works similar to American private insurance, where you just pay a monthly premium. It's much lower than what you pay for state insurance. However, if something happens to you, you have to pay for it up front and then send the insurance a bill where they will then decide if they're going to pay it or not. And you may have to get a lawyer involved almost every time, or not at all, depending on how good your insurance company is. But once you go private, it's really hard to go back to social insurance. So something you really need to think about. It is shocking when you first come here. It is shocking when you get your first paycheck and almost half of it is missing. It's a huge shock. But as you start to build a family, as we maybe have children, then you really see how it is worth it. Yes, you may have to wait an extra couple months of saving money to buy the new iPhone, but you don't have to worry if you get into a car accident that your life is going to be basically over anyway.
Yeah.
So it's give and take, but more pros than cons.
Yeah.
This is really like the biggest topic that we see among expats from North America, mostly the United States. It's really the biggest point that we see on all these videos, why you should move to Germany. Yes, it's a good reason. We just want to fill in all the details that so many other people leave out, exactly how things work.
Yeah.
So if you guys have any questions pertaining to what we just talked about, we'd be happy to answer them in our next video. Or if they're small questions, we'll just reply to your comments. We are thinking about next time talking about education and parental leave.
Parental leave, yeah.
To also two huge topics that a lot of expat YouTubers are talking about, and also what a lot of left-leaning people in America talk about in general.
Yeah.
Free education. We've already got healthcare, parental leave. Definitely huge pluses. We're talking about those in the next video. So if you're interested in these things, if you're new to Germany and you just want to know how these things work, or if you're thinking about coming to Germany, or you're just curious, then please feel free to tune in for our next video and like and subscribe so that we know that you're watching.
Yeah.
If you like this video, that tells us we're doing something right and we should keep going.
Exactly.
And comments are definitely helpful, because criticism is a good thing and we can always better ourselves. We're still new at this, so we're working on it, and I think it's going great.
Yeah.
So far.
Well, I didn't say much, but it's because David is here for a longer time and he knows more about this stuff. So I'm going to talk about parental leave. Also, we can talk about like comparing to Czech Republic someday soon.
Yeah,
So-
and soon we're going to be making videos that are centered around Czech,
Yeah.
which is a wonderful place, but it's another thing, it's culture shock. You have to know what you're getting into.
Yeah, exactly.
So thank you guys for watching, and
See you next time.
see you next time.
Bye bye.
Bye.